So I want you to look at the great distance here, and the entity is amplifying helicopter activity into my office. This is speaking to what is a system of group stalking. Group stalking is entirely demonic. This great distance is nothing that I would ever hear. It's nothing that would disturb my workday. It's nothing that would disrupt the peace and quiet in my office. It's nothing that I would even have knowledge of occurring around me, but for what is the demonic feature, which is amplification of the audible activity that a demon is engaging in to target you in the specific environment, which is a part of the specific environment. It's maintaining the element of audible activity while stalking spectacularly in helicopters. That's the entity acting directly. The sirens is the entity acting directly. It's an ongoing admission to the state stalking you in relevant position in the specific environment, using lights in relevant position, criminally facilitating the people of the state who are group stalking in concert with that state in relevant position in the specific environment where the light source is remaining directly over my head. This is the same tree right here where you saw the light source at 9 o'clock in the morning. This is the same location where I was standing here, where Maria Solis Alvarez, a group stalker affiliated with the third-party group stalking company, Speaker Companies, an illegitimate company, the malicious guise under which federal group stalking and monitoring is underway. That is why the specific environment is at my place of work. All right, that's why it's occurring in the workplace, because Speaker Companies is an illegitimate company. Speaker Companies is exhibiting to you, to the world, how the United States is monitoring American citizens by the people that live in the country. They're referred to as the people of the state. The pattern within the pattern is, while I document and prosecute the state with the evidence, it will arrive and provide more evidence against the people. This is Exhibit A, and this is the entity's pattern while they know that they're being documented, and that's why the terrorist organization, the LAPD, has met its time. They're going to be removed from existence. All right, that's the pattern within the pattern in the specific environment, and they were flying at a great distance, amplifying the sound of helicopter. Let me be clear, flying directly over my head is not rebutting what exactly you just saw. That is an admission that they are indeed engaged in federal stalking on the venue of the internet, aware of every word that's being uttered about their criminal conduct, and they are also at the same time making manifest their mentally ill condition while psychopaths are aware of their criminal conduct being exposed. That's what that exposes. Flying over my head in helicopter seconds later after I'm speaking to what is the demonic method of group stalking. Flying at a great distance in the path. The light source is over my head. Never is that going to rumble my office. I'm not going to hear it. I'm not even going to know that it's happening. What am I doing? Documenting 24/7, waking me up, sounding helicopter activity at the moment that I wake up, at the moment I start documenting, at the moment I'm uploading something onto the internet, at the moment that I'm speaking about the criminal conduct. What arrives over my head? The pattern within the pattern. Demons that are providing evidence against its criminal co-conspirator, the people of the state. Everybody at this property is going to federal prison. The state's criminal system of federal group stalking and monitoring is repeatedly, ceaselessly underway, and it is entirely psychotic, and they are of that specific condition. So you can see me. Everyone at this property is what I'm doing a screen recording, because I'm going to show you where the entity is maintaining a light source at 2:38, in addition to that demonic behavior that you just saw, which is, first of all, stalking in a helicopter. That's revealing an appetite to terrorize and torture someone. That's demonic, okay? That's psychotic. That is highly malicious. That is abnormal. That's despicable. It's criminal. It's underway by a government, a terrorist organization masquerading as the Los Angeles Police Department, and that's going to be the removal, the demise of the LAPD. The entity is doing so within what is a pattern by these corrupt law enforcement agencies who are group stalking. These are terrorist organizations. They're not legitimate police departments. They're not legitimate law enforcement agencies. And so I'm referring to them based on what they are doing. And they are engaging in what is terrorism in the United States, and with knowledge of the fact that what they are doing is, first of all, not a secret. That is against the rights of one who seeks to enforce their rights, and they continue to do so with knowledge of the fact, even seeking to obstruct justice and silence, if not falsely depict that targeted individual. None of that is going to work when you have evidence of that system, and every intention, every attempt to fictitiously, well, I don't even want to say attempt, every effort at exercising fictitious authority, when you want to masquerade like you have jurisdiction as a court, as a sheriff, as a police officer, department, etc., you're going to federal prison for that. They're engaged in criminal surveillance in the state of California, and it's of a demonic nature. They're acting in concert with the people of the state, all right? She and her children are going to be prosecuted like the terrorists that they are, and they're acting with the terrorist organization in the state of California. She's engaged in what is crossing a path. She's engaged in federal stalking with the people of the state. She's right now engaged in what is psychotic pacing. The vehicle is moving in real time. It's moving in front of her while she's walking toward her vehicle, and she's monitoring with the abundances who are in their vehicle, engaged in surveillance. The entity, as you heard with sirens, they're driving all around, sounding light activity and also sounding their sirens while they all know that they're being exposed. And what I want to speak to is that the fact of the light source, this is speaking to everyone's condition. That's everyone whose criminal conduct that I just broke down for you. They're all demons engaged in group stalking, the elements of monitoring, all three. And the entity is doing so with real-time knowledge. This is federal stalking upon group stalking. Federal stalking referencing Title 18, Section 226(1)(a), subsections 1 and 2. You have what is the entity maintaining an unnatural environment. The sun's not going to be here at 9:03 in the morning, and I am standing at literally the same entrance door as I am here. And all I'm going to do is turn around, and then that's how you know what you're looking at, which is a demon. That's the same demon you saw, Engineer Light, moving across building 1816. This is called impunity. She's going to be dragged to federal prison like the terrorist that she is. Jeanette Ramirez and Luis Ramos, aware of their criminal conduct. That's sirens, impossible light across a dumpster, as though the sun would ever be in this condition. And while you look at this impossible light activity, that's demonic pacing, driving by while this one stays stationary, and then this one's going to drive by, and Engineer Light drags across a dumpster. And let me also point out what this is to you. This is the psychopath. This is the mental illness that's made manifest, because this entity would rather me focus on this, thinking that it's a distraction from the evidence of that criminal system that they're engaging in. So I want to point out every aspect of the criminal system, every point by where you are understanding the threat that the people of the state are and the state is to the public safety concern in this country. Because what you're looking at is the demonstration of demon possession. That's not sunlight. That's going to ricochet. This is supposedly the sun. That's a vehicle that's sitting underneath the sun, and yet you have a light that's appearing on the side of the dumpster, and then you have the entity that's stalking a helicopter. That's literally the federal raid for this whole property. Just want to point that out. What we're going to focus on now, because that's a whole prosecution of the state of California. All right, the entity is doing so on an ongoing basis. This is occurring in the workplace. This is the demise of a third-party company, that is Speaker Companies. Speaker Companies is engaged in and is criminally facilitating the state's criminal pattern of conduct of federal group stalking and monitoring. That's why you have the ongoing course of conduct amongst the people of the state that live at the real property that is owned by third-party group stalker R. Todd Speaker, who was also a documented group stalker in Palo Alto. This is documented in December of 2023, which, by the way, is grounds of federal prison for him specifically, in addition to what is his company, criminal facilitation by way of using a company for the malicious purpose of a government to keep an American citizen under surveillance. You have what is the specific environment that's at the workplace, the real property owned by a third party. When you want to provide your company, you want to provide your business, you want to provide whatever it is that you have at your disposal where you live, for example, whatever it is, your skill set, then as a property manager, you want to lend your property management company, you want to lend your employees of that company that are facilitating that state's criminal system, which is exactly what you see occurring outside while I am in the workplace. The entity is going to be prosecuted for that. He's going to be published as a group stalker maintained by the Department of Justice. He is witnessing every moment of his exposure through the documentation. He's fully aware of it, fully cognizant of it. Documented acts of obstruction of justice to that end, for which I want to be clear is grounds of federal prison, while the so-called human resources director, a Speaker Company's third-party group stalker, also documented engagement and in concert with that entity that flew over right now in video while the light source is over me at approximately 2:39 in the afternoon. The light source is still here, remember, at 4:12 p.m., the same location and that same corrupt law enforcement agency, which is properly referred to as that terrorist organization, because that's exactly what they are and that's exactly what they're doing. All right, that terrorist organization flew over my head at the same doorway entrance at 4:12 p.m. where the sun would never be present at this point in the day. Don't forget the sunrise outside of my living room window yesterday at 7:59 in the morning. Don't forget that I live at the same property where I work. So let's look at that again, and then I'm going to show you where the sun is actually. You saw the sunrise right here. I'm in building 1806. This is my living room window. This is where I'm showing you the so-called sunrise through my living room window. And I'm reminding you about what's the sunrise while I'm inside of the vehicle parked at 630 North Fern Avenue in Ontario, California, where the two are never happening at the same time. That's impossible. But what you do recognize as a pattern is that the light source, which is not possibly the sun, remains directly in alignment to me wherever it is that I wake up in the morning and wherever it is that I lay my head in the evening. That's where the sun will set as well, which is speaking to what is absolutely impossible. Because I wake up and I go to sleep not only at the same place, but literally the same location, whether that be sleeping outside at a building, as I've documented in Ontario, California, which is not sharing any sky space with the living room window of 1806 North Alvarado Street in Los Angeles, California, to be seen outside of the bedroom window of this same building right here. After 5 p.m., 6, 7 p.m., like you saw Luke Powell group stalking with that engineer light inside of my apartment. He's going to federal prison, him and his girlfriend. All right, engaging in what is an act of affection in order to monitor me, which is the whole an unfortunate and very disturbing pattern where the people of the state are actually focused, and everything that they're doing is actually serving to monitor someone else. It's about me. It's not actually about them sucking each other's face, and that in and of itself is disgusting. But you have what are demons that are kissing on each other, and they're engaging in the elements of monitoring while the LAPD flew over my apartment, which you saw yesterday after 7 p.m. and I'm still on the same property right here at the management office at 2:38. It's currently 2:48 p.m. The entity is engaging in what is behavior suggesting that the sun is still in perfect alignment with my bedroom window after 7 p.m. where you see Luke Powell group stalking with his some female, I'm just going to call it that, with some female after 7 p.m. and as though sunlight would be seen inside of my bedroom in any location, particularly on my ceiling and all over my bedroom walls and spreading across my carpet and underneath my bed. Well, it is also present in alignment to me in the morning. No one's forgotten what the entity engaged in yesterday, and it's demonic, and it's demonic today. The entity is doing so while it is engaging in what is the hallmark, stalking, flying at a great distance away, and yet I'm hearing that helicopter activity. That's the demonic feature of stalking with amplified audible activity. Amplification is demonic activity. It is the malice whereby an entity is targeting you and seeking to appear as though they're not. That's to falsely depict the targeted individual that is supposed to be written off and discarded as imagining things, a paranoid schizophrenic. What are you talking about? That helicopter is a far distance away. I'm breaking down to you the criminal system, and this is a government that's very highly malicious. It is entirely stripped of all legitimacy. And you are also recognizing that psychotic and level of desperation when you see the people of the state such as Tiffany Sherez and the entity group stalking. Those are demons driving fire trucks and ambulances right now, acting in an act. Not only is this frenzy, excuse me, not only are these demons in a frenzy right now, but they are also in a state of panic and desperation while they still obsessively engage in that criminal system. That is a public safety concern. This is a population that is right now ticking time bombs, that are walking around free in positions in society where they are posing a threat to the lives of American citizens. In the courts, and amongst the law enforcement agencies, in the medical field, around children, around the elderly, and they are engaged in what is very highly psychotic targeting systems, and they sought to do it secretly. And you're looking at what is their mental illness that is made manifest when it is exposed, and they still continue to do it. They're both terrified, but not terrified enough to stop doing it, and they engage in desperate acts such as flying over my head in a helicopter, which is nothing other than an mission in real time in a specific environment, while demonstrating to the world what demonic activity, what demon possession looks like, and failing to in any way protect anyone that you are group stalking with in relevant position. So with that, I want to remind you about what the entity was doing which would be 2:38 p.m. I believe yesterday. Today in 2022, I'm at the Ovid Family Community Library, and on that day I had already heavily documented the entity. Capturing the engineered environment, capturing the phenomenon one time is more than sufficient. And in June 2022, I have so heavily documented the pattern of conduct. On June 2022, just so you could see, today is the 7th. Yeah, I'm documenting the entity group stalking by helicopter, just like you see now. They're group stalking 24/7. So this is while I'm sleeping outside, a whole government, a whole population of people. I am that important. That's not a compliment. It's because they serve Satan. And let me be clear, Satan has an obsession with those who serve the Lord Jesus Christ, with those who belong to him. Okay? The entity is engaging with his group stalking me 24/7, including while I sleep, and I am outside. Okay, I'm sleeping outside, and the entity's group stalking in helicopters, flying in circles all night long, and engineered light. And this is what I'm documenting during the day. I am at the Ovid Family Community Library. The entity is maintaining the light source. I am, looks like at the morning, I'm just summarizing where I'm at this morning. I'm nowhere near Los Angeles. In other words, is my point. At no point in the day is the sun going to be directly over my head at the Senior Center. This is adjacent to the Ontario Ovid Family Community Library. I'm here at, looks like 10:23 in the morning on June 7, 2022. I'm capturing my location. I'm facing the parking lot of the senior apartments. This is the Ovid Family Community Library, where I am present again, remaining for the duration of the day. I'm here. I'm arriving at this point at 10:23, which is the point of my documentation. When I arrive at 10:23, the light source arrives as I arrive. It's not already over the Ovid Family Community Library like I've documented at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the light source is over me at the library already. I'm not walking toward the library and the sun is already there over the building. No, as I walk toward the building, the light source remains over my head en route to the building, which is, again, the pattern of conduct of stalking with light, showing what everyone in that environment is doing. They're group stalking together, and they are of a specific condition. These are demons. and they're doing so in concert and on behalf of a corrupt government. That's actually a terrorist organization masquerading as a constitutionally based government in the United States. I'm talking about the state of California. Okay, so it's shown through the unnatural environment. And what am I referencing? I've already shown the entity maintaining the light source at the Ovid Family Community Library at 8 o'clock, and the terrorist organization, the Ontario Police Department, is sitting in that parking lot, fully aware of what I'm documenting, convinced at that point in time, at that point in the documentation, where they also did not understand what they were being surrounded with regard to the evidence of their criminal conduct and their demon possession. They sat there in plain sight, in plain view, group stalking, which all of the world is going to take a look back at now, knowing the full picture, knowing all of the weight of the evidence and the malice with which that entity engages in that criminal system to the demise of the targeted individual, thinking that you can falsely depict that person and stalking and terrorizing you in plain sight. All of that is reasonably construed and deducted when you are looking at that evidence, where I am at the Ovid Family Community Library at 8 o'clock in the morning and the light source is already there, as opposed to what I'm showing you now while I'm en route to that library. That's the point of what I'm capturing, and it's not over the Ovid Family Community Library. It remains over me as I travel to that Ovid Family Community Library, and which is the pattern of conduct. There is no sun that's going to be anywhere over the Ovid Family Community Library while it's remaining over me. All right, and so this is where I'm at on this day in 2022, 215 East C Street in Ontario, California, which is also speaking to the fact that there's no sun that's ever going to be over Alvarado Gardens at 1800 through 1818 North Alvarado Street. And in addition to what is conclusive evidence of federal group stalking and monitoring in Los Angeles, you have what is the entity maintaining, in other words, providing a generous, hearty helping of evidence against the state, because the entity's light source is here all day long. And then in that specific environment, what is the entity doing? Stalking directly in fire trucks, police vehicles, and ambulances. That is criminal summoning, like you just heard right now, while a light source is over my head, scientifically impossible, and it's also documented here for the duration of the day. Remember the sunrise yesterday at 7:59 in the morning, and the sunset yesterday after 7 p.m., while it's over my head at the same property where I live and work at 2:38 in the afternoon. That's the pattern of conduct, and that is, again, every single last person you see, including Jeanette Balderas, who has literally given up her any appearance. This is somebody, that level of desperation, what you saw, openly volunteering impossible light activity. Oh, the demon sought to hide that. Let me be clear. My documentation is so heavily capturing it. The entity is now engaging in what is a desperate act of distraction. They would. This is a question amongst the corrupt. Amongst criminals, you're talking about what is a compromise, the lesser of two evils, will be captured. We'd rather settle for being captured stalking with engineered light than for you to create what is the greater pattern. And there is no avoiding that. I just want to be clear. I'm just pointing out what is the self-destructive and futile and defeated mind state of a demon-possessed and corrupt entity that is surrounded with evidence, okay? And these are the tactics that the demon-possessed do. This is why you are seeing impossible light activity sitting in plain sight, and this demon is not fleeing, okay? That's also documented as impunity. That's why Jeanette Balderas is going to federal prison, and that's why her children are going to be removed from her. What she provides willingly and openly is going to be used in federal court to permanently remove those minor children from her custody, her and Luis Ramos. Okay, that directed light conduct is evidence of terrorism. Terrorism is not going to be tolerated in this country from no person naturally born here or not a natural born citizen, where under such circumstances you are going to be deported. Whatever permanent citizenship you thought that you had or naturalization you thought that you permanently had, that's not the case. Terrorism is the grounds upon which you will find that citizenship revoked. Okay, the entity is maintaining a light source, as I started this video, at 2:37 p.m., 2:38 p.m., as I have documented same time of year analysis, which was yesterday in 2022. So let's recall what was happening at 2:38 p.m. while you are looking at what remains over my leasing office at the same time. Okay, while you just saw that whole iteration of the pattern of conduct, you saw and heard demons going crazy, going in a frenzy, both because they're engaging in the elements of monitoring, they are both group stalking, and this is also a nervous panic that the demon possessed are exhibiting. And that's a threat to you. This is a mentally unstable population who persist in engaging in criminally targeting you, and they are, I am able to speak to what is their state, their defeated mind state, what are the demons, what is their purpose in engaging in this conduct. Their pattern of conduct is clear, and then also you're talking about what is the temperature of the demons, what is their purpose, what is their mind state, in which I'm able to discern that. But that's not, let me point something else out to you. That's nothing that has to do with the evidence that is tangible that I'm going to prosecute them with. I'm giving you ongoing context. I'm speaking to the demented mind state. Okay, so with regard to what indeed you are listening to, it is reasonably construed as a mentally unwell population, as you are listening to elements of group stalking, not sirens. It's audible activity. It's the specific environment. So everything takes on a clinical nature. So you don't have just sirens as though there's an emergency. There is no legitimate emergency outside of the targeted individual's life who remains under threat, because they're subject to this targeting system. The entity is sounding sirens for purposes of criminal monitoring. It's audible activity and light activity while they're group stalking in the path. And they're enabling everybody else in the path to group stalk you as well. It's an exceedingly horrendous crime, egregious crime, while a demon is driving an ambulance. Supposed to have a totally different focus, okay? Serving another, aiding another, okay? Critically, at a critical state with regard to their life. They're group stalking with that. Those are demons, psychopaths, driving ambulances, walking into hospitals, by the way. But that's the reality, and that's the breakdown of what the entity is engaging in. You're listening to a panic. And that activity picks up the more that I speak to the criminal conduct and the elements that are underway, the more that I speak to the demonic behavior. The entity does what? Flies over in helicopter in closer proximity, which is a threat. You're analyzing everything that the demons are doing. All right, and they do so while, because you are failing at trying, the entity, this demonic entity is trying to, albeit failing at seeking to try to contradict or provide an explanation. They want to impliedly respond to what I'm exposing about them. So the entity will fly over in a helicopter, and while you're doing that, you are providing evidence. You are admitting that you're stalking. You're also providing evidence of your demon possession. You're also doing it out within the pattern of conduct. That's not an ongoing coincidence. You know exactly what's being exposed about you. You're monitoring the documentation. All of this is also legally relevant. That's what the entity does while it's flying over, directly over the parking lot over my head in helicopter, moments after I'm speaking to the impossibility that I would ever hear that helicopter that's at a great distance. It doesn't take 2 seconds for that helicopter to get at that great distance. It was already at a distance. The entity does use more than one helicopter, but I want to be clear, the entity maintains real-time knowledge, and the entity is always failing at, but admitting at the same time, while they seek to impliedly respond to their criminal conduct that I'm breaking down to the world. Okay? That's what the entity is doing. All right, so I want to speak to the malice and that psychotic intention. That is absolutely demented. It's disturbing. It's disconcerting, because these are government actors. That is a terrorist organization. That is not a law enforcement agency. Secondly, the entity is engaging in what is sounding sirens, and you will hear the pickup in activity the more that I'm pointing out their criminal conduct. That pickup in activity are both the elements of monitoring, and it's also the frenzied nature of the demons who are witnessing their exposure. It is both. And that's what I'm speaking to. I am speaking to not only the criminal conduct, I am revealing to you, as they are, actually, I am nothing other than narrating what you are witnessing. As you hear all of the elements of monitoring, as you are seeing the elements of monitoring, the system underway, and it's occurring in the specific environment. The sun is not going to be over my head at Alvarado Gardens, at this apartment complex, while it's remaining over me at the Ovid Family Community Library at the same time, which I'm going to show you this video right now, at 215 EC Street in Ontario, California, which is what happened yesterday in 2022 at the same time. While you're looking at what's the pattern, it just so happens to be that scientific impossibility, that phenomenon, in other words, is a coincidence. While the entity, I'm also capturing an ongoing pattern of, man, helicopters are always flying over my head, flying over, following me everywhere that I go. Even if I go to the grocery store, there's always somebody in a helicopter flying over my car, flying in the distance, flying around. And if I don't see them, I'm always hearing them. That's a pattern in that, amongst that scientific impossibility. That's a pattern in and of itself, and it's demonic. It's demonic. The way that you can hear something that's way too far for you to be able to naturally hear. That's not speaking to or in any way reflecting on that targeted individual. That's speaking to the condition, the demented condition, the malicious means whereby an entity is targeting you. Okay? Because you're supposed to be imagining it. But for the P.O.C., the pattern of conduct, the documentation, the evidence of a government targeting you with the people who are no longer, you're not exercising any independent rights. You're not exercising any privacy. Tiffany Sherez is acting with impunity. She is openly a team terrorist in California. She's going to be treated like the terrorist that she is. When her body is thrown against the ground, when she's arrested, when she's treated like the threat to American society that she is, Okay, and I'm just giving you examples about how terrorism is not going to be tolerated, just like any other threat that would come across the jurisdiction of this country. All right, and we would go to any lengths to protect those American citizens. That's what this is. They're domestic enemies, and they're going to be treated accordingly. While she so casually engages in what is terrorism in open sight, sirens, helicopters, light source, over your head, that's all manner of a threat. Even your casual way in which you engage in state terrorism with the government, that's a threat. Okay, and this is how you're going to be treated at federal court, because the judge is going to look at that, and it's going to be also used. The whole body of evidence of the P.O.C. is going to be used against her while she's openly and still with knowledge of the fact that her criminal system that she's participating in that she's participating in with impunity and malice and with real-time knowledge. All of that is going to be used against her, because that's exactly what's underway, and it's called malice. So this is the illusion that you're making a separation in your mind between the terrorist organization called the LAPD today. They're going to be disbanded and removed tomorrow, okay? But you have also Tiffany Sherez. And I want to let you know, actually, there's no separation. There's an illusion of a separation there. You're talking about what is direct engagement by the state and vicarious engagement by the state, who you see walking by me in the parking lot. And that's group stalking. Tiffany Sherez represents the state. Everything that she says is stated by the state. Everything she's doing is in concert and on behalf of the state. And it is the same thing with speaker companies. It is the same thing with Amazon Prime. It is the same thing with Budget, who you see group stalking at Silverview Townhomes in relevant position in the same exact specific environment, under the same sky space in relevant position, while that same terrorist organization is stalking in helicopters all day and all night. It's the same pattern of conduct. So I just want to point that out, and that's the context that I'm giving you when I'm speaking to. This is the reality. You can perceive the pickup in audible activity. This is the frenzied nature of what are a bunch of psychopaths. And by psychopaths, what am I referencing? I'm referencing what is the affect on the human being in the natural. It affects your behavior. It affects your mind state, the way you think and operate, the decisions you make. But their condition is one that you cannot physically perceive, and it is demon possession. And the P.O.C. not only points out and breaks down and itemizes the criminal conduct by the corrupt government, which is public corruption in concert with the people, their pattern of conduct is also demonic at its core. You can also see the personification of that demonic activity through their behavioral patterns and through the unnatural environment. It is literally personified through the impossible light activity, literally. Okay, sunlight's not ricocheting, appearing on the wall beside you while you're sitting under the sun. That has nothing to do with sunlight, and what you saw there was a desperate, but that's going to be probative with regard to the terrorism that Jeanette Balderas engages in with impunity. Impunity is something that you never want attached to your name when you are documented engaged in group stalking. Okay, but in federal group stalking and monitoring is you are automatically acting with impunity, because the government is acting as a whole entity on a ceaseless basis with real-time knowledge that it's being documented, where documentation has begun. And if you continue that pattern of conduct even 1 second longer, it's impunity. The government has no basis to ever keep you under surveillance, an innocent citizen under surveillance, engaging in group stalking, and then have the audacity, the nerve, as though you are over and above the law, to communicate through your criminal conduct and continuation of it that we will continue to do so despite your engagement in what is exercising your rights. Nova Contractors, as you already know, that driver, he's going to federal prison, and Nova Contractors is engaged in federal stalking right now. They're doing so with real-time knowledge, and it's inherently acting with impunity. Every government actor engaged in group stalking, let me be clear, the terrorist organization that is the LAPD, those group stalking by helicopter, they're going to federal prison. Those coming onto the grounds of Alvarado Gardens, they know who they are. They're going to federal prison. And I want to be clear, the entity is acting with real-time knowledge while they are doing so and witnessing every moment of the fact that they're being documented. I want to document also engaging in what is federal stalking is Anthony Kennedy. Anthony Juan Kennedy, who you've seen while the entity flew in circles over Alvarado Gardens for approximately 20 to 25 minutes. This was in the middle of the night when I'm documenting the people of the state. The entity begins while they're monitoring the documentation, and I'm monitoring the sex offense that Anthony Juan Kennedy engaged in as the people of the state, not as an individual. He is engaging in what is workplace terrorism and federal stalking with real-time knowledge of the fact that I'm in the midst of documenting him. While I'm documenting the people, I'm documenting him, and he's a sex offender, and he engaged in a sex offense in the shoes of the government on behalf of the state of California. I'm going to prosecute him for that, and he's also engaged in what is monitoring me inside of the workplace while he's engaged in Title 18 criminal conduct. That's not a coincidence. The entity is listening to me document them. This is the ongoing futility of an entity that's defeated. It's pathetic, but since he wants to call on the phone, he's I also want to point out his name, Angela Kennedy. That's his mother's name, who's a documented group stalker as well. His name is Anthony Jawan Kennedy, under the number 909-631-8348. He is engaged in what is a threat to me personally. I do not speak with him, not aware of the fact that he is group stalking still to date. This became aware of me, and this is why I do not maintain contact with him or communication with him. And he is calling, engaging in the state's pattern of conduct in concert with that state, that's stalking in helicopters, surrounding in relevant position with sirens, while the light source is hovering over me and nowhere over Montclair, where his off of Granada, where his third-party facilitating venue remains, and the light source will be captured over him, over my head, were I to go to his house right now. So I want to be clear, he represents the people of the state, and he's calling the office, engaging in the pattern of conduct, which is what I already documented today. But I also want to be clear, the cowardice that he's exhibiting, he doesn't want his name to show up on the caller ID. He's got his mother's name. His mother is a documented group stalker. His name is Anthony Jawan Kennedy, and he's going to federal prison. It is currently 3:08 p.m., so let me remind you about what's going on at 2:38, because this is what all of that is prefacing the P.O.C. Nova Contractors is also engaged in the same criminal conduct. There's no difference between Nova Contractors, the people of the state, and Anthony Jawan Kennedy, the people of the state. Okay, they're all engaging in what is federal stalking. Every phone call, every email sent is relevant to 24-hour surveillance that's also spilling into the workplace. That's why you have the state's hallmark, stalking in helicopters, the demonic features of that stalking system, and the entity stalking via the use of sirens. Sirens are nothing other than a means of indicating presence in the path. In that specific environment, it's criminal, and it's serving for what is group stalking and monitoring. This is Nova Contractors that's engaging in the P.O.C. right now. That's fine. It's an ongoing admission. They're going to be prosecuted. Every employee that's here group stalking, which are documented in concert with LAPD, they're going to federal prison. They're present group stalking with engineered light, and they would like to be a distraction. This is the desperation that you heard via the audible activity outside. So we're going to continue because it's not a distraction. You're witnessing the ongoing system underway, and the entity is doing so with real-time knowledge. I am at 2:38 p.m. You saw the entity with the light source, so let's look at that. The light source remains over me where I am at 215 East C Street. Never is the natural environment such that the sun is going to be rising, which is what you saw yesterday while I'm in LA, and at some point be over the entrance area of the Ovid Family Community Library at 215 East C Street in Ontario, California. In the same way, let me be clear, because I documented the Ovid Family Community Library at 215 East C Street in Ontario, California, well before I relocated to Los Angeles, specifically this is the Glendale Echo Park area and the entity is maintaining as though that's the natural environment, and because that's exactly what the terrorist organization, the Ontario Police Department, would like to contend, but no one can reasonably contend that. Okay, at no point, which I've also been witnessing, is the sun going to be over the Supreme Court while it's remaining over me at Alvarado Gardens for the duration of the day. That is capturing on a big picture scale. I want you to look at that, look that up, see the sun over the Supreme Court. And they're going to compare the time to where it's remaining over me for the duration of the day at one address, setting in alignment to me, rising in alignment to me. So I want you to look at this, and that's a vivid illustration for you right there. That's capturing the pattern of conduct that the state of California is engaging in. Every phone call that you're hearing, all the sirens and the helicopter flying over the parking lot, the engineered light that Jeanette Balderas was so generously providing and engaging in while she's group stalking clearly, pacing in the parking lot by Tiffany Sherez and the demons in their vehicles. This is an entity that's both monitoring, and they're also desperate with regard to wanting to be a distraction. Focus on this, talk about this, don't talk about the state, don't talk about what's going on somewhere else. That's the entity's, again, that's that self-destructive, that futile mind state. And while this demon-possessed entity, this corrupt entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct, it is in a frenzied state, all right? It is still not fearful enough, which is the federal government's purpose. This is the federal policies that need to come into existence, and the intense prosecution under existing federal policies that exist, which need to be enforced, because the government, the state, is not fearful enough. It's not fearful enough to cease from engaging in it. Okay, so as long as you have terrorists like Tiffany Sherez striding in relevant position while the entity flies over in a helicopter, openly engaging in that demon possession, you want to demonstrate, in other words, to the target individual that you're demon possessed, that's an act of a terrorist. Okay, they want to freak you out, and the entity seeks to do so while you don't have evidence of the fact that you've got, because the ordinary target individual may or may not even describe it as demonic. They might even not even have the language to describe light appearing on surfaces while you're driving a car. What is that? Okay, but for the direct evidence showing you the demon possession of Jeanette Balderas, who acts with impunity because she knows that her demonic activity, which is terrorism in concert with the state, is captured, and to provide so generously that same impunity, that same abandon that she's wants to provide with regard to engaging in that, that's the lack of hesitation that the federal judge is going to exemplify when she's being sentenced. Okay. The federal judge is not going to hesitate, because that's exactly what you're looking at when you see that impossible light just sitting on that dumpster wall in plain sight after the entity flies directly over the parking lot in plain sight while that light source is sitting directly over my head at 2:38 p.m. So this is where the light source is at 2. This is 2:15 p.m. I'm capturing video. This video began at 2:37, and the entity is maintaining the light source while I'm inside of the Ovid Family Community Library. So I want you to see as I walk through that library. This is the same library where I have arrived at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the light source is still over this library. Okay, so it's already the P.O.C. where at 2:38 p.m. on June 6, 2022, that it's still there. This is why I was documenting it in 2022. In addition to a whole body of evidence when I'm nowhere near the Ovid Family Community Library, even on public transportation, even remaining inside of an entirely different location such as the Fontana Lewis Library, such as being in front of the Fontana Police Department, such as walking on Juniper in Fontana, California, just being at the Chino Branch Library is not going to be over the entrance of the Ovid Family Community Library. This is why I documented it. So now when I'm in LA and you're looking at the entity group stalking directly in helicopters, exhibiting demon possession in doing so, in concert with the people, all of whom are monitoring ongoing documentation and further demonstrating not only their frenzied, fearful state, albeit not fearful enough to stop engaging in their criminal system, which is going to be used against them in federal law, when this whole criminal act operated by a government is then individualized and is going under your name. Under your name. You're going to answer for all that you participated in as an entity under your name. Because they're not fearful enough to cease engaging in it now, the entity is providing this evidence, which is why I continuously documented it. So this is me walking through the environment, through the library at the top.
It's 2:38 p.m. These are minions who are crossing paths. This is group stalking. Not only Director Light fills the venue on the inside of the venue of the Ovid Family Community Library, the fake sun remains over the Ovid Family Community Library at 215 East C Street in Ontario, California. And as you'll recall, I'm at the Upland Police Department at the same time. And it's not just the fact that I'm up at the Upland Police Department.
All right, this is where I'm at 2:38. I'm at the entrance. Remember, I showed you the other day, I'm at the same entrance at 10:29 in the morning, 11, 12, 1, 2. 4 hours later, there is no court where the terrorist organization, the Ontario Police Department, and as you see today, the terrorist organization, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, them too, the Los Angeles Police Department will ever be able to contend that they are in the natural environment under no circumstances demonstrating demon possession, which becomes legally relevant when you're documented engaged in the system of group stalking and monitoring, that they are, in other words, not engaged in terrorism in concert with the people of the state, or you're looking at that which is not even possibly sunlight on the dumpster wall while the light source is over the Ovid Family Community Library, and this demon, Jeanette Balderas, is sitting beside a dumpster in Los Angeles where that would ever be light activity that's coexisting, where the sun would never be present in its zenith like you see on the bottom, where I'm here outside of my office and it's directly over my head, and you're seeing at the top at 2:38 p.m. it's over my head in the same position. That's called being in its zenith, which, by the way, the zenith position of the sun is not occurring at all times of the day. It's not occurring during all hours between 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, and 2, and 3. The zenith is at a specific time in the day, and the sun is also not stationary over one address. This is not the sun that will be over 215 East C Street in Ontario, California, and also remaining over me in front of my leasing office in that same position directly over the top of my head at the same time. That's impossible, and it's also impossible while the entity is documented maintaining the light source at the same address from the beginning to the end of the day, and that is covered when I'm capturing as a matter of documentation from 8 o'clock in the morning at the same library, and also group stalking in helicopter as a matter of video documentation at 6:39 in the evening at that same library, providing no provision for the sun to ever be present on the property of Alvarado Gardens, which is again the documentation where you're looking at the sunrise over me at 7, 6:58 in the morning, as I documented yesterday, June 6, 2024. And the sun set, as you saw, after 7 p.m., where the people of the state acting via Luke Powell, the unfortunate display of what is pathetic, even as they are showing affection to each other. It's still not even about them. It's about me. They're group stalking with the state that's flying over in helicopter. That's also very disturbing, as equally disgusting, okay? While they're group stalking in the path and engineered light, the entity stalking by helicopter, just like you saw at 237 as I started this video, and the people of the state are group stalking in the path, pacing in the parking lots, pacing up and down Alvarado Street, where there would never be any sun at any point in the day, when I'm showing literally beginning to the end of the day of the light source here at the Ovid Family Community Library. So I want you to see in real time where I'm at right now, the light source. Oh, sorry. The light source remaining over me. Discard that. All right, I want to document again another one engaging in federal stalking. This is 213-806-9152. This is audible activity with regard to my operation on my communication device. As I cancel an operation on my phone, immediately the phone rings. And it's occurring in the specific environment, and that's how you know that is also as well. Pursuant to your ever physical movement, pursuant to your operation of a communication device, it is so pathetic engaging in surveillance sitting in your car. And this is an old woman. She should be worried about her health. She should be worried about her mindset. She should be worried about what she's going to do when she's sitting in federal prison. Instead, she's engaging in what is surveillance. This is a demon-possessed one that's also listening and aware of everything that's occurring while I'm inside of the office, monitoring with the third party that called on the phone. And that's also federal stalking and group stalking. This is light activity, while that which is not possibly the sun that's over the Ovid Family Community Library at the same time is remaining over me here in Los Angeles. Okay, that's the P.O.C. That's called demonic pacing as well, just driving backward and forward. This is also a desperate attempt to want to be a distraction. It's not a distraction. That's why she's going to federal prison. She represents the entity that's sounding sirens, that's stalking in helicopters, that's just casually walking across in the parking lot. This is the same one that you see walking around my apartment in the evening while the entity's flying over in helicopter. And this light source is still here at 7 in alignment with my apartment window, which is on the same property, as though the sun is ever going to be at the Ovid Family Community Library, like I'm capturing here at the top. This is the pattern of conduct of, this is revealing what is state
looking at what is activity creation. I get on Omnitrans Route 83.
So I want you to see that. This is speaking to what is absolutely impossible. And this is the environment where you're looking at what is group stalking in the path. And this is coexisting with what the entity relies on this pathetic existence. Everything and everything that you're doing is about the targeted individual, and a psychopath seeks to make it appear, but there's nothing that you are deceived by, because you're aware of the environment that it's happening. And so then you can see the mental illness that the entity seeks to conceal. Then you are aware of the mental illness while an entity is stalking in helicopters and wants to appear as though it's not, doing so by flying at a great distance. Hold on. Doing so by flying at a great distance, but yet I'm hearing that, okay? And then providing what is ongoing evidence against Marina Davila, who is indeed going to federal prison. That's P.O.C. And this is the passive aggression that's exhibited by her. That's a threat by her. She's going to federal prison, okay? That's what you understand. And she represents the entity. And the entity engages in this ongoing pattern on an ongoing basis. Do not forget, this is the same property where there would never, ever be any sun over me at the same time while you're looking at this stalking in a helicopter. That's the entity group stalking directly. This is the entity group stalking vicariously. P.O.C. And what does the entity do while you point out their criminal conduct? They'll fly over your head in a helicopter, while the coward keeps their back to you, and the coward flies over in a helicopter, which, again, at that distance, I'm never going to be able to hear that. That's a demon that's targeting you through the audible activity, and that's a demon that's stalking in the path, living at the crime scene. You go to federal prison for that. This is a light source, and this is tying together what is a specific environment. Everybody at the Ovid Family Community Library was engaged in the same criminal system that you see engaged in now, and the two are not sharing a natural environment, and you're witnessing what is the mental illness that is shared by that entire population that looks to the left and the right while they are targeting you. That is revealing very disturbing conduct that is shared by an entire entity living, committing their lives and everything that they do to the elements of monitoring in the path, okay? Engineer light while that third party opens and closes the door, okay? Targeting you, looking to the left and the right, and the entity flies over your head in a helicopter while they look to the left and the right. The entity is doing so on federal stalking, calling on the phones as well, and then doing so with an ongoing knowledge of the fact of everything that you are stating, okay? This is, again, 3:21 p.m., and I want to remind you, not only are you looking at all of the hallmarks, not only is this speaking to, hold on, let's show you the engineer light here in the back of the office. Since I have this opportunity to capture this, want to be clear, and then you're looking at what are demons. digging out of their car. The entity flies over your head by helicopter. The light source, which is not possibly the sun, is over your head, and they look to passively to the left and the right while engineer light is appearing on the dumps. Remember what Jeanette Balderas is doing, and engaging in what is revealing the mental illness of those who are group stalking. That mental illness is nothing other than the effect on human beings who are demon possessed. That's the mental affect. That personality defect results in what is that very highly unnatural, disturbing level of passive aggressive stalking. But you're witnessing what is not so passive aggressive, because the entity is doing so in an environment that is in every way revealing the fact that you are indeed being targeted. Flying over your head in a helicopter, stalking with engineer light, this is under no circumstances passive aggressive. These are the hallmarks of recognizing group stalking. And as you passively engage in that conduct in concert with LAPD, like you see Tiffany Sherez, you see Jeanette Balderas, all right, you see the Ledesma walking to his van and in the path, using his vehicle as the means of light activity, stalking in the path, and the entity flies directly over your head, they're all going to federal prison. The entire property, okay? The entire property is going to federal prison. Mental examinations are necessary as a matter of prosecution for engaging in group stalking. The entire property, the people of the state living at this crime scene, will be listed as group stalkers to be maintained by the Department of Justice. And you're understanding the system of terrorism that they are engaging in concert with that terrorist organization, the LAPD, who provides a wealth of evidence against the people when you recognize both the system and the concerted conduct, and then the behavioral patterns, which are highly disturbing, and under no circumstances pointing out any for example, suggestion of innocence because that third party looks to the left and right. These are all the false pretenses upon which the system of group stalking was built. All right, Marina Davila is a malicious actor, and she acts in concert with the entity, and doing so with real-time knowledge. And so while the entity flies over your head, that third party in particular is going to federal prison for it. That third party is acting pursuant to the system, though. All right, so the last thing I want to show you before I conclude this video, it is 3:23 p.m. I started this video at 3:37 when the entity starts sounding helicopter activity, and I want you to remember what I captured. I'm at the same property at 1:15 over the top of my apartment. This is where the entity is sounding this is where the entity is maintaining its light source directly over my head at 1:15 p.m. There's no point where at 1:15 p.m. it's remaining over the Ovid Family Community Library all day, and also then remaining over me while I am at the apartment complex of what is Alvarado Gardens. This is what I documented today. Remaining over me, directly over my head where I remain. So while you're looking at what is, again, this is demonic at its core. So this is speaking to what is highly malicious. The demonic seeks to hide in plain sight, seeks to try to appear normal. There's nothing normal about stalking in helicopters, and there's nothing normal about keeping your back while you're group stalking while the entity is stalking you by helicopters. There's nothing normal about the sun remaining over the top of your head all day long while the entity is stalking you in helicopters and group stalking you with all those who surround, keeping their backs to you, okay? Looking to the left. There's nothing normal about that, okay? This is the whole system of group stalking. Every single last person, all 59 units here, that are occupied with nothing but the people of the state, and they're all going to federal prison because of that psychotic episode that you just saw demonstrated by Marina Davila, okay? This is a passive-aggressive psychopath whose aggression is communicated on her behalf by that terrorist organization who flew over my head while she is listening, and the whole entity is aware of me describing her criminal conduct. The demons are together exhibiting their hostility while they fly over my head in a helicopter, okay? They're acting as one in the unnatural environment where the sun would not be over the same property at 1:15. This is the same apartment building. I'm in building 1806. It's right over my head at the top of my apartment building, and I'm capturing images of what is the people of the state who live in a relevant position. All of this population, they're all covered in engineer light. None of this is sunlight. It's the same environment. They're group stalking with the state while I am specifically surrounded by the people of the state on the grounds of Alvarado Gardens. Let me be clear. You hear Silverview Townhomes? This property is covered in engineer light. They're in the path. You see them engaging in concerted conduct day and night. They're violent sex offenders and terrorists the same. And they're going to find themselves, all 35 units, prosecuted. That's nothing other than an easy means of me identifying a whole group of people. This whole population is going to be prosecuted. The state is monitoring through everyone in relevant position. That's how you have what is an impossible occurrence, which is the unnatural environment that's shared over the entrance of the Ovid Family Community Library in Ontario, and the light source that's remaining over me here at the same time, 2:38 p.m. That's called the pattern of conduct. And I'm at the same property at 6:49 yesterday. Okay, so the entity was maintaining a light source over the Ovid Family Community Library on this day in 2022 at 2:38 p.m. There's no sun that's going to be over in alignment to my bedroom window. There's no sun that's going to be in alignment to me right now while I am at the same property. At 2:38, it's 3:26 p.m. right now. The entity's light source was over my apartment. You just saw it. Over my apartment at 1:15. Yeah, 1:15, and at 6:49, this is outside of the window of the same apartment. So you're looking clearly at what Marina Davila is engaging in, and knowingly so. That mental illness is made manifest while you are looking at the full picture of the environment and the criminal conduct with which she is cooperating, the real-time knowledge that she has and is necessarily maintaining while that entity flies over my head, providing evidence against her. And that's the implosion of the system of group stalking and monitoring, by the way, while that entity is engaging in that conduct to not only to her demise, but it's to the demise of the entire state of California. Okay, but it is entirely unintelligent. It's not even logical. It's certainly not scientific. And then you are just breaking down what is very disturbing personality defects. All right, what is mentally ill condition that is necessarily the case to engage in this level of criminal conduct as a whole population of people. There is no logical explanation for it. This is no product of sunlight, by the way. This is the entity that's group stalking. This is what I captured yesterday at 5:44 at the same property where the entity is maintaining a light source. So this is, again, pointing out the system. I just want you to see the sunset. 6:49 p.m. This is the front of building 1806 where my front door is. This is where the hillside is. This is out where my living room window is, in other words, at the top. And this is, so you can see the time, 1:15 in the afternoon. And this is on the bottom. I'm done. This is on the bottom outside of my bedroom, the same apartment, at 6:49 in the afternoon. I just want to be clear, this duration of time alone is speaking to what is absolutely a scientific impossibility. The sun is never remaining over one address, which is exactly what I'm capturing here, from 1 o'clock till 6:49 to be present. And that was yesterday at 6:49 p.m. This was June 6th, 2024 at 6:49 p.m. and this was today at 1:15 in the afternoon. The light source, the same apartment. I live in building 1806 on the 3rd floor. At 6:49 p.m. I'm inside of my apartment, building 1806, just so that you can see that. The entity is engaging in what is maintaining a light source as though the sun would be at the front of my apartment, directly over my head at 1:15, and outside of my bedroom window at 6:49 p.m. All right, it's still in a position to be seen, aiming any sort of light into my bedroom. It's not just the fact that it's in my bedroom, it's along the bedroom wall, as though sunlight is going to shoot through my my bedroom window, ricochet off the mirrors, stripe across the carpet, grow, and I mean grow. It builds upward on the bedroom wall, okay? And also it's appearing on the ceiling. That's entirely demonic. You just saw the impossible light activity appearing in my office. It's separate from what's supposedly the sunlight that's out there. There's no sun that's ricocheting off of the door and just shooting through the air and appearing on the walls and the depths of the office wall. No, that's the pattern of stalking with light. And then you see demons such as Marina Davila looking to the left and the right, not acknowledging you while the entity flies over your head by helicopter. She's going to federal prison. That's how you're understanding the malice of federal group stalking and monitoring. And it is that which is underway in concert and on behalf of terrorist organizations such as the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department and the Los Angeles Police Department. Let me be clear. The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department is engaging in this criminal system inside of their facilities. That's exactly what they're doing, and that's exactly what the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department are doing when they engaged in repeated acts of kidnapping, and they were engaged in what is this system, including amplifying helicopter activity inside of the jails. Okay, so I want to be clear, in California, these demons specifically like to use helicopters, including and why? Because it's relevant to what is the appetite of a demon-possessed psychopath that wants to torment and torture another. They will do so through the audible activity. Their pattern of conduct includes helicopters. So while they're kidnapping you inside of the facility, this is what the entity was doing at Glen Helen Rehabilitation Center, at the Central Detention Center, and at the West Valley Detention Center. And let me be clear, I've never been a criminal one day in my life. The entity was repeatedly kidnapping while they're making up information, and they were group stalking the whole time. The fake sun is over every venue where they're documenting the Economy Inn, Sunrise and Sunset. Okay, the Ovid Family Community Library, literally sunrise, sunset, 8 o'clock in the morning till 6:39, 6:41 in the evening. That's duration of the day analysis. And then you have the entity maintaining a light source here in Los Angeles, which is just added on documentation with regard to the entity that I've already surrounded with evidence beyond a reasonable doubt with regard to what is recognized under federal law as terrorism in the U.S. America's version of terrorism, and it's not happening in a third world country. The terrorist organization is these corrupt law enforcement agencies that are targeting American citizens in violation, clear conflict with the constitutional rights, literally the laws whereby in violation of the very oaths that these terrorists take while they're masquerading with badges, using helicopters in the way that you just saw. You're talking about what is recognizing the grounds and what is supporting what I advocate, the demilitarization of these terrorist organizations, disbanding for those that are documented engaging in the terrorism system. Then you're talking about disbanding. LAPD is not above the law. They're certainly not needed. You can start. They're not needed. They are not so crucial that you have to go. We can't go. No, that's a lie. That's a lie. It is as fake as that light source that's over my head. That's not true. They are showing you their unworthiness, okay? They're showing you the impunity. They're showing you how much they are preparing for war, okay, against innocent American citizens. That's what they're showing you, all right? I want to make sure that you recognize the unnatural environment. It's directly indicative of the demonic activity that I just captured through, and it's that demonic activity is trickling down and manifesting into what is criminal conduct. And then you can see the mental illness that Marina Davila has. That's a psychopath that's targeting you in concert with that entity. That's not a coincidence flying over my head while I'm pointing out the condition and the criminal conduct. That same demonic entity flies over my head in a helicopter while that demon is digging in the backseat of her car. Okay? That's the psychopath. And that's why the whole property is going to federal prison, by the way. Every single last third party. And the population, the people of the state that have been heavily documented for years, the people of the state that are calling on this phone, every phone call is made pursuant to real-time knowledge of what I'm documenting. Anthony Kennedy is going to federal prison. Nova Contractors is a third party. They will not survive federal prosecution. They will not survive being listed as a group stalker. Nova Contractors is already a nobody, okay? They're not going to survive prosecution. The entity is engaging in what is ongoing facilitation and ongoing impunity as I document them, and they're doing so with real-time knowledge that they're being documented. So I want to make sure that we, let's go over who was engaging in that. That was, 213-806-9152. The entity is engaging what is audible activity creation. Angela Kennedy, this is the coward. Anthony Jawan Kennedy is the actual name. Angela Kennedy is not the appropriate caller ID. The number is 909-631-8348. Engaging in federal stalking on the venue of the internet, and it's also occurring in the workplace. Todd Speaker is going to compensate. I'm going to drain the pockets of this company because he's engaging and facilitating the state's criminal system under the guise of the business of a company. It's a malicious misuse and it's the corrupt misuse and the malicious facilitation of federal group stalking and monitoring by the state, acting in concert. And Nova Contractors engaging in what is audible activity creation in the specific environment. Everything is elements in the specific environment. The entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct, and it is highlighted through not only that unnatural environment where I'm documenting the sunrise and the sunset, which, by the way, let's go over that one more time before I end this, because this is what, not only do you see that light source in alignment to my bedroom window, while you're looking at a group stalker that lives at the crime scene engaging in what is an act of terrorism. She acts so generously, and that's exactly how that evidence is going to be used against her. She's threatening my life while the entity flies over my head in a helicopter because she's a passive-aggressive psychopath and a violent sex offender, a terrorist who is hostile because I'm documenting her criminal conduct, and then she, as the entity, uses a helicopter to terrorize and monitor me. That's exactly how she's going to be prosecuted, the terrorist that she is. And the entity does so in the unnatural environment while the light source is over my head, and the light source remains in alignment to me at what is 6:49 p.m. at the same property. This is the same time when you're seeing that demon pacing around the property of Alvarado Gardens in engineered light at the same hour, by the way. I've documented Marina Davila acting with impunity and malice on many occasions. She's going to be thrown in federal prison like the terrorist that she is. All right, and her daughter, by the way, documented. But I want to make sure that I also get, because I documented the sunrise yesterday, and no one is forgetting that. No one has forgotten that. I documented the sunrise, which was yesterday in the morning, outside of my living room window.
Like 7:59 in the morning on Thursday, June 6, 2024. I just want to show you what is the maintenance of engineered light inside of the apartment. You've seen this day in and day out captures. I just want to show what the entity is engaging in.
That's engineered light that's appearing on my living room floor, and this is what the entity is doing inside of my my bedroom in the evening. This is what you just saw the entity doing inside of my office right now. Engineered light just appearing on the upward portion of the wall, as though you're supposed to make a separation in your mind, as though the federal government, as though any federal investigator is going to make some sort of separation, or that anyone's going to be confused. You're looking at something that you may be a novice to it, but But no intelligent person, no person that's going to take on an objective survey of what's going on is going to disregard the impossible light activity or make some sort of separation, or oh, that doesn't count, the helicopter, oh, that's separate from what this person is doing. None of that. You're taking a big picture analysis of everything, and I'm showing you how the pattern looks, how the behavior ties into the environment, how it's an ongoing, consistent pattern no matter where I go, no matter what time it is, and it's focused on what I do as I do it. All right, no intelligent, and I'm speaking to the federal government, these are not going, they're not novices. They may be novices with regard to demonic activity, okay, and that becomes legally relevant with regard to what the government is doing, okay, but no intelligent person is going to just forget about that impossible light activity that happened, that sunrise that happened yesterday, like the demons that are the LAPD do. They forget about it, and they provide ongoing evidence against the people. But let me be clear, that's providence. Okay, everything that I'm documenting, it's going against the entity. Speaker Companies is a terrorist. That's reality. It's not a legitimate company. The people of the state are engaging in terrorists. You're a terrorist. You're terrorizing an American citizen, and you know that you're being shown as that, and you act with impunity. You are an outright terrorist. Terrorists are not treated gently or delicately or kindly. They're not. They're treated like the threat to the society that they are. Okay, and so that criminal conduct that they are exacting against an American citizen who has the presence of mind to capture it and document it and then even break it down for the world to understand, okay, so that there would not be any confusion, so that there would not be any darkness with regard to what's going on and what the Lord Jesus is exposing amongst the population, amongst the governments in the United States. That's occurring for a reason. All right, so this is what the entity is doing when you're looking at engineer light appearing in my bedrooms in the evening. It's appearing all over my walls, all over the ceiling. The pattern of the blinds appearing upward, the engineered light appearing downward on the walls. This is entirely demonic. It has nothing to do with sunrise, with the sunrise or sunset. It has nothing to do with sunlight. Just like you saw appearing in the corner of the wall, while you saw the engineered light that's appearing on the ground, and you saw the light source over me. It has nothing to do with the engineered light. Nothing. It's a method of maintaining the specific environment. And then you see the mental illness manifest on a person that keeps their back to you while that acting with that entity that flies directly over your head. Their mental illness, their condition is what is being highlighted, as opposed to what is the malice of the system. It's supposed to, and it doesn't even make sense that it ever would. It's requiring the corruption of courthouses that would entertain criminal defamation. That's the only reason how that works, because there is nothing about the state's criminal pattern of conduct that has anything to do or in any way reflects the mental state of the target individual, and it certainly does not work when you are capturing their demonic behavior, their demented, very disturbing and disconcerting and despicable criminal activity together and in that environment, which is also revealing their mental illness. Okay, this is the same light activity you're seeing in the morning. So you're seeing that in my bedroom in the evening. Okay, after 7 p.m.
Both
In
rise
addition to
and
that,
set.
I want you to see the lights.
The entity seeks to obstruct justice.
As though the sun is going to be present. This is captured at 7:59 in the morning. Okay, 7:59. What else are you looking at? And then I'm remaining at this same property, 7:59, and at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's still over my apartment. 7:59 outside of my living room window. My living room window is right here to the side of my front door. It's right here. So this is where I'm seeing the sunset. At 1 o'clock, the entity is suggesting at 1:15, that's still going to be the sun. It's directly over the top of my head. And as I step outside and I capture video of the light source, I'm in front of my leasing office at 3:29. This is where you're seeing the light source remaining all day long, as though it's also setting inside of the same apartment. This is captured at 7:44. The entity is engaging in what is maintaining an unnatural environment, group stalking with the LAPD, in concert with the people.
LAPD group stalking, in concert, driving in the parking lot. This is still...
That's captured at 7:47 p.m. And you saw a sunrise through my living room window at 7:59 in the morning. You're looking at the light source that's still over the top of my head at 2:38 in the afternoon. While the entity is group stalking with Marina Davila, Tiffany Cherez, Jeanette Balderas, group stalking while the entity is the terrorist organization, the LAPD flying directly, repeatedly over. That's not stopping the documentation. That's not stopping the evidence. That's not stopping the federal repercussions that Marina Davila is going to serve. This is what the entity does when you are enforcing your rights. No federal judge is going to in any way slow down. They will even more so accelerate Dominic CHOI's prompt removal as a terrorist in this country, engaging in what is federal group stalking and monitoring, which is America's version of terrorism. Engaging in what is, because you serve Satan, that whole organization serves Satan. This is why they are devoting 24 hours surveillance in helicopters. No federal judge is going to slow that down.
Okay? And no federal judge is going to disregard any aspect of the evidence. It is so peculiar, it demands your attention. You don't ignore it. And it certainly has nothing to do with the targeted individual's mind state. It brings into question what the entity is being exposed, what exactly is going on here. It's probable cause, like I said, at the least. But the P.O.C. provides more than probable cause. It's establishing the pattern of conduct, and it's the prosecution of the government beyond a reasonable doubt. And Luke Powell is group stalking.
A remaining sunset. This is the same street where you're looking at the sun over me at the entrance of at 937. And that is license 9F VF B37. And they're going to federal prison. Substantially similar. I want to make sure I document this. They're doing...
And the entity is group stalking indeed by helicopter while there's a remaining so-called sunset in alignment to me, in addition to impossible light activity that's crossing path, pacing. The vehicle drives in and then drives out of the parking lot. That's pacing. They're driving in and out. All right, they're crossing path in concert as one. Crossing path.
That's the same pattern of conduct. I already documented that.
All right, crossing path into the parking lot also as I'm documenting, and this is the
There's
engineer
some possible
light.
light activity on my bed.
That engineer light up. Let me not back up. I would say never mind, but let me just finish that. The engineer light remains inside of my apartment. That's what I want to show you. It's not sunlight. This is engineer light on my bedroom wall, and this is captured after 7:44. 7:44. The light source that's supposedly the sun is over my apartment at 7:59 in the morning. This is it right there. That's outside my living room window. It's still over my head as I stand in front of my apartment at 1 in the afternoon. It's over my head at the same property. Let's not forget again, what am I standing at? Big picture. This is the sunrise through my living room window at 7:59. At 7:44 outside of my bedroom window, which is just on the opposite side of the same apartment. I have not got the same property, okay? 7:44 p.m. Oh, the so-called sunset that's creating light on my bedroom wall. And you're also looking at all manner of light activity, just like what you saw inside of my office. That has nothing to do with sunlight. Maintaining engineer light all around me while demons are stalking in helicopter. This is where I stand right now. 2:38 p.m. as though the sun set in alignment to me. It goes from here to right here as though the sun is just setting in perfect alignment to me. That's called stalking in the path with light. And there's no provision that the sun is over the Ovid Family Community Library. Because I documented before I even came to Los Angeles, the sun is never going to be over this property. And it's also not going to be from the beginning till the end of the day in alignment to me. Okay, that's called stalking with light. And the entity is also stalking with helicopters, and they're stalking in concert via people of the state, psychopaths, and sex offending group stalkers such as Marina Davila, who you saw in action. You saw that in action, in concerted action, while the entity is swarming around in helicopters, okay? So this is currently 3:44 p.m. This video is a little over an hour, but I want to end it with what is the maintenance of the light source? P.O.C. This is indeed the P.O.C. where the entity is maintaining a light source, and it goes from being in alignment with my office, then being in alignment with my apartment on the same property after 7:44, okay? That's serving for its 24-hour surveillance, and everybody on this property is indeed going to federal prison, and it is terrorism while they're practicing demonic activity together. It is, again, 3:45 p.m., and this is P.O.C.